Welcome everyone to Public Affairs. I am your host, Kayleigh, and today I am here with Margie Saul. She is the event coordinator of the Honor Flight at Home Marion. So Margie, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Kayleigh. Thank you so much for having me here today. And I just wanted to get the word out for the Honor Flight at Home Marion program. The program is open to veterans who have not gone on Honor Flight Columbus and cannot travel to Washington, D.C. to see their memorials. And so many of them are coming from assisted living facilities, or they just have health issues that they cannot attend. But the Honor Flight of Columbus, I'm affiliated with them, and Honor Flight Columbus flies veterans to Washington, D.C. And so they have flown 131 flights. They took the last one last week. And they have the same qualifications as I do for the Honor Flight at Home. The veterans need to be at least 65 years and older with 1 day of active duty, and also they've served between 1941 to 1975. And in order to come to the program, we need to have them in Marion fill out an application, and if they can fly, they fill out an application for going to Washington, D.C. And I can get that application if you can fly. By all means, if a veteran can fly, I would like for you to go. An instance this past week, I had a veteran that saw Honor Flight at Home. And with the Honor Flight name, I think that may be confusing because the Marion program, they're not flying. They are staying here in Marion and attending a program at Tri-Rivers. So an example, as I mentioned, a veteran thought he was going to be flying. I talked to the family, and she said, well, I thought my dad was going to be flying. So I said, well, then you need an application for Columbus. And so I actually put that in the mail this morning. So he will have the opportunity of going on that wonderful trip to D.C.
So obviously this is very inspirational for a lot of veterans. How did you start this program? What was the inspiration behind it?
My dad was a World War II veteran, and he could not travel to Washington, D.C., and I would like to have had that opportunity for him. But we happened to be in Florida, and we were at the Florida State Fair, and a lady came up to him and said, have you been on Honor Flight Columbus? Or at any Honor Flight? And we said, no, he cannot fly. She said, well, here in Florida, we have the West Central Florida hub, and we have an Honor Flight at Home program. We'd like to invite you to that program. So we went, and it was a wonderful experience for him. And I thought, wow, you know, I'd really like to come back to Marion and start a program here. So I tried to convince then Honor Flight Columbus there was a need for this.
You talked about bringing it back to Marion. What was the process behind that? What hoops did you have to jump through to do this?
Well, I contacted Honor Flight Columbus, met with the board, met with some of the folks there, and several meetings, phone calls, back and forth. And they said, well, how do you do this? And I realized they wanted to protect their name because this had not been done before under Honor Flight. And so after several meetings, they said, well, how are you going to do this? Being a former teacher, I had a lesson plan, kind of like different steps and things that I was going to do. And so after a few weeks, they gave me permission to start the first Honor Flight Marion. So I'm really proud of that program.
When exactly was this first Honor Flight at Home Marion program held, and how successful was it?
The Marion program was held in 2018 because prior to that I was trying to get everything set up, and we didn't know how it would go, but we tried to get the word out. And so in 2018 the first program was held at Tri-Rivers, and it was held in the GEOC auditorium. We weren't sure how much space we were going to need, how many people were going to attend, but that room was packed. And I thought, yes, there is a need for this. Yeah. So anyway, we had it in 2018. We honored 32 veterans. And so we thought, if it's going to be this successful, we need to go to a different room. So it is now held in a larger room at Tri-Rivers. And then we held it in 2019. But then in 20 and 21, of course, COVID came along. And many of the, didn't want to come out, and I didn't want them to because we wanted to be sure everyone was safe. So it was started up again then in 22, and then we held it last year at 23, and this year we're getting ready for the 5th Honor Flight at Tri-Rivers on June 8th. The veterans check in at 1. The program start will be from approximately 2 to 3 or a little after, and the veterans really appreciate this.
Yeah. Why did you choose Tri-Rivers Career Center? You talked about the room being too small, and obviously the program's growing. Why did you choose that specific place and nowhere else?
Well, I wanted a place that we could grow in, which, as I mentioned, we went from a smaller room to a larger room. But I'm trying to get the word out to surrounding counties and not just Marion, because this program is open to any veteran in the state of Ohio that qualifies. As I mentioned, the qualifications 1941 to 1975, and if you're age 65 and over and have served at least 1 day active duty. And so I wanted to get that for Marion, but also surrounding counties. And it's a convenient location. We have Route 95, Route 23. So it seemed to be a good place, access off of main highways that veterans and their families could come to.
Yeah, absolutely. What can veterans expect when they arrive at Tri-Rivers? What's the program like for them?
Okay, well, they're very impressed because I have a gentleman that brings flags, and he lines Route 95 all the way into the building with flags. We have a motorcycle group that meets over at Meyer, and they gather and they come over, and they're rearing their motors and making a lot of noise and getting ready for these veterans to come in. And they are very good about helping the veterans into the building. I have the Sheriff's Department Explorers. They help park cars. They help veterans get out of their car. As I mentioned, some are coming needing wheelchairs. Mm-hmm. We also have some of the assisted living facilities are bringing the veterans on buses, and so they will need help. And so between the Explorers and the motorcycle gentlemen, they're able to get them into the building. I had a daughter of a veteran that came last year, and her mother had health issues on getting around. The father was in a wheelchair, and she said, I was wondering, I'm going to pick them up. How am I going to get them into the building? So with the Explorers and the motorcycle gentlemen that were out there from Throttle Up, they were able to get them in, and she said that meant so much to her.
Yeah, takes a village, doesn't it, to get it all prepared?
It does, yes. And then after they, get out of their vehicle, they're escorted into the building. There are some displays outside the building, and then when they come in, they will be signing in. And at that point, I have, when they go to Washington, D.C., they have a guardian. So at Tri-Rivers, we have volunteers that I call ambassadors that will help them sign in and register for the program.
Yeah. So you talked about registration. So what do veterans do after they're registered?
Well, after they're registered, they get their picture taken at the American flag, and I have access to printing those off, and so therefore the veterans get copies. I had a veteran last year that his family wanted 10 copies because had nieces and nephews and grandchildren in other states that they could not participate and see the veteran be honored. So it means a lot to them to have that picture taken that day with the American flag. I have other displays. Those that are Vietnam veterans are pinned. There's a special pin for them. The other veterans, there are service coins for the World War II and also for the Korean veterans. So they are pinned or given their coins. On down the hallway, I have a display about the honor flight at home and the honor flight to Washington, D.C. There is a display there's a young gentleman that I have new coming this year that has a big display of just our Army and different venues of the, whether it's the Navy, Army, but he has a collection that he would like to share with the veterans, so we will see that.
So can you describe what the program will be for the veterans?
Okay, when actually after they leave that hallway and go into the auditorium, my husband is, I can't be at the front door greeting veterans and being many different places. So my husband is in charge, my husband Fred, he was also an educator in Marion City, and he is in charge of the auditorium as well as many other volunteers. So once the veterans go down the hallway and they enter that auditorium, they will be seated. And we like to have a seating chart because some are in wheelchairs. So at the table, it takes more space for them to be seated. But one person, whether it be a family member or a friend, may sit with them. And then the other family and friends can sit behind them. And so there's a lot of volunteers in there. Actually, the Marion Historical Society is very supportive of the program. So we've had President Harding attend. We've had Roosevelt and different presidents, impersonators that have come to the program, and so that's neat for them. We have Boy Scouts that are in there, and so the Boy Scouts go around, and the veterans love to interact with young people. And so they're in there. And then there are refreshments that have been donated. And so there's refreshments served. And then I just have a lot of the volunteers go around and they will just talk with the veterans. Every veteran has a story. And so we need to let them know they're appreciated and to also hear their stories.
Yeah, they're all valued in an important way. You talked about the volunteers. Are you guys looking for volunteers anymore, or what did the volunteers do to help the program?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we need volunteers outside helping the veterans in. We need volunteers to help the veterans sign in. I have a lot of volunteers that are want to volunteer every year. So they'll say, put me on your calendar or put me on your list for next year. So I'm glad for that. I'm very appreciative that some want to help. In fact, there's an organization over in Morrow County that I met with last week. And so there are 10 of those coming just from that organization to help out. But I'm continuing, though, as people hear about this program, contacting me and saying, is there anything I can do? So, yes, I will find a place for you. Or if nothing else, just to be in the hallway to greet the veterans as they come down the hall and thanking them for their service. And then in the auditorium, as I mentioned, listening to their stories and just making them feel welcome and respected. Because many of these veterans, especially Vietnam, were not appreciated and given the welcome home when they came back.
Yeah. If someone were to want to volunteer, do they just call the same phone number as it is for the application?
Okay, if you would like to contact me, you can call me at 740-360-8902. I'll repeat that again, 740-360-8902. Or by email is SAULLGW4@yahoo.com. I'll repeat that again for listeners who maybe needed an extra time to get their pen and paper. Okay. It's SAULLGW4@yahoo.com. And through the email, if you give me your email, I can then respond back to you, and it would say Honor Flight at Home. And with the email, I can just automatically attach the flyer and the application.
And that's for people that want to register, and it is for volunteers, that same phone number and everything, correct?
Yes, it's volunteers, and yes, everything is through either my phone, which is also my cell phone, which you can text, or through email.
Okay. So let's get back into this program a little bit more. How is the program funded?
Okay, the program is funded by the community. The Marion community has been excellent in supporting this program. So some are businesses, American Legion, VFW posts, private individuals, and ones that just hear about the program. Honor Flight Columbus is very supportive of the program, and if I need funds, they will be there to help me. But so far, it's been able to be totally funded, and I'm proud of that by the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You talked a little bit about how appreciative the families were of everything that you're doing for these veterans. What are some of the other responses from veterans and their families that you receive? Well,
the families really appreciate this because otherwise their veteran would not be honored. The families, some of them have given me notes and letters afterwards. And I also, as I mentioned, some of the veterans were not given the welcome home they should have been from Vietnam. And so couple years ago, I had a veteran that he wasn't sure he wanted to come to the program. And I said, well, you know, if you don't want to go to D.C. or can't, then please come to the Marion program. And some of these veterans, they are very emotional if they would go to the wall. And I said, well, you know, you deserve to be honored. So this one gentleman came, and he really liked the program. He said, thank you so much for doing this. And about 2 weeks later, I got a note from him saying that all the feelings that had been built up inside of him all those years were totally erased in that one afternoon. So that makes it all worthwhile. Notes and letters. I had a gentleman a few years ago that was in a memory care unit, and the facility brought him. And for some reason, we missed getting his picture taken in the hallway. And so we wanted to do that because we wanted to give pictures to the family. So I went to the facility, and another person went with me, and we took a picture of him. But as I went into that memory facility, he was waving to me. And they were so glad and surprised that he recognized me, but that meant a lot to him. So after, you know, a little bit, we got the picture taken. He said, come here. And he wanted us and the nurse that was there to come, and proudly displayed on his bed was the quilt that he had received that day. So.
That's definitely heartfelt, because I remember going to Washington, D.C., and it just, all the feelings.
Yes.
But especially for them, because they went to war for all of us, and they're veterans now.
Yes.
So obviously, with that being said, you want to reach as many people as you can. So how do you get the information out there to the community and surrounding counties?
Well, I've been working really hard. I started, I'd say about in February, March, of sending out through the mail many letters to American Legion, VFW posts, and other contacts I had. Then I also sent emails out. And like I tell my volunteers, you are ambassadors for me, so I would like for you to help also. And all the ones that have attended this program, I've had some contacts. There's a gentleman down west of Columbus that he said, I would be glad to help you. And so they are my ambassadors, so they have attended. But this year, I did get an article this past Monday in the Marion Star, Marion Made, Think Thirst Marion. I appreciate TV 39, and also I appreciate any other, a lot of the people in the community. I've had speaking engagements to several organizations, and just, you know, I just hope that it can be spread. And this program is not just open to veterans here in Marion County. It's open to anyone in the state of Ohio that can travel to Marion to be honored.
Yeah, and I hope the audience really does take advantage of this opportunity, because obviously speaking to you today, it's an experience of a lifetime that you don't get all the time. What is the organization behind this program, the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into it, and how have you organized other programs?
Yes. You know, with my dad being a World War II veteran, I have just always had a love and respect for veterans. And I was a school teacher. I had 36 years of teaching. And when I was teaching with my children, there were different holidays and other opportunities that I mentioned to them the importance of respecting our flag, the importance of respecting veterans for their service to our country, because they mean so much to us. And so when I was doing programs with my students, I would do music programs. Sometimes there were some students that were a little squirrely. And so by the mid-afternoon, maybe 45 minutes before dismissal, we would sing songs. And so the one year when we sang a lot of songs, my students did very well on the social studies proficiency test. So that was a way of learning. And my last year, my kind of last hurrah with programs, the students would do reports about famous Americans, and then we sang patriotic songs connected to that. So the last year of teaching, I had a program at the Palace Theater where many veterans attended. I had a flag that unfurled, and as the students were singing by Lee Greenwood's Proud to be an American. So I think it's important that students understand what our flag means, and also the importance of all these veterans that have served our country. And last week, I was at 2 elementary schools, and they wanted me to come in. I like to wear patriotic clothing, as you can see today. So I happened to be out and about, and I saw a lady that was a teacher in one of the school systems here in Marion County, and she said, "Oh, I think it would be great if you could come in and talk to the students." So I actually was at 2 different schools last week. So I talked to the students about the different branches of the service and the importance of veterans. I had my dad's World War II cap, and I said, my dad, anytime he was out and about with his cap, people would come over and say, "Thank you for your service." So if you are out and about as a student and you see a veteran, I know your parents probably do not want you going up to strangers, but if you are, a little ways away from them, just look at them, smile, and salute. So that the one school, they took a group picture after school, after the program was over. And so here are 2 little girls, and they're saluting. And I just thought that is absolutely wonderful, because I said we have holidays that are coming up now. Memorial Day, where you're going to see the flag. You'll see military people. We have a Flag Day, which is honoring our flag. 4th of July. And I mentioned Memorial Day. It's a day to, many of you are going to be going on picnics and camping and fishing. But the real meaning of that is to honor those who have served our country for us.
Yeah, I love how you get into the elementary schools and just teach the little kids, because that's where it all starts. That's where it begins. That's how you get it drilled into their brain. So can you give the information again on what veterans need to do for the upcoming program at Tri-Rivers?
Yes. The program is Saturday, June 8th, and the veterans will be checking in at 1 o'clock, between 1 and 2, and the program starts from 2 to 3, a little after. And you need to obtain an application. On the flyers, it says that the applications are due by May 25th, and I would never deny a veteran to be honored, but I just like to get them in because I need to get some supplies ready for that day. But if they could turn them in by that time, it would be appreciated. And again, my phone number is 740-360-8902. My email is saullgw4@yahoo.com.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up this interview, is there anything you would like to add that we may have missed, or any closing statement you would like to add to the end of this?
Well, I think it's important that we honor these the veterans, because they did not get the respect and honor they did before. And I know when I'm out in a store and I see a veteran with a veteran cap, I thank them for their service. And some of them kind of look at me like, "Oh, okay." One veteran, the other day, I saw him, I said, "Thanks for your service." And he said, "Oh, thanks for noticing." And I think sometimes, we get busy, and I know that we're passing people in stores and thinking about something else. But I think as we're out and about in the community, it's important that we show a sign to them, whether it's just thank you, or as I mentioned with the children, smiling at them and a little salute, that is important that we honor these veterans in the community. I'm thankful that you have taken the time today, Kayleigh, to have me in, getting the word out to the community, and I hope that we can have a wonderful group of veterans to honor this year.
Yeah.
And the motto for the Honor Flight Columbus, which also I have also, is we need to honor, share, and celebrate. We need to honor them, we need to share and listen to their stories, and also we need to celebrate what they have done for us. And as I mentioned to the students the other day, home of the free because of the brave.
Well, I want to thank you, Margie, for coming out today. I learned a lot. I didn't know this program was in Marion after it's been here for 5 years now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I hope you, as the audience, learned a lot from this interview as well. And I hope you take advantage of wanting to volunteer and help out this program. And veterans, I hope you get a hold of Margie and get a form to go to DC and just experience it, because it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And thank you again for coming out.
Thank you very much, Kayleigh. And like I said, I'm hoping that we can have a lot of veterans. And the program is open to the public. I've had a veteran ask me, they said, well, I've been to D.C., but can I come to the program? I said, sure. I think it's great that other veterans are supporting other veterans. And so if they would like to come, that's fine also. also, and the families are welcome also.
So you talked about wanting to get into schools and teaching these younger kids, because that's where it all starts. Are you planning on getting into other schools, or how do you want to talk to the younger kids more?
Yes, I plan to do more next year. In fact, I had a teacher contacted me this week, and she said, "Oh, I wish I had had you in before now, because school is getting out, and and they have, ending up the year." But anyway, I would like to get into schools next year. We have a mail call, I think, as I mentioned, and so what we do is I have several schools that are doing cards for that mail call. Delaware City, I have in Marion, and also in Morrow County. I also will be out and about with other organizations, and I'm hoping that by being on a program like this, and also the newspaper article that was in the Marion Star, and I know that it's been in the Delaware Gazette, if we can spread out. It was also in the Crestline Advocate. So if we can spread it out, and maybe I could be speaking to other groups about it. And we have a new DVD that at the program that the veterans see, and so therefore I think that we could go out to more organizations and do that. I don't think I touched on, actually you asked me what can they expect in the auditorium. When the program starts, we have the Veteran Council of Marion will be posting the colors. There is the Star Spangled Banner, the Pledge of Allegiance. There's Boy Scouts in there. I actually have a cousin who just recently came back from being deployed. And so I thought it would be great if he could be a part of that program, and he is going to be leading the Pledge of Allegiance. Also for the program, we have a speaker. The speaker this year is a retired colonel from the Ohio National Guard. So every year I've tried to have a speaker that is served in the service, because I think that they can very much relate to the audience, especially the veterans that attend that day. And then we have a benediction, and then we have the welcome home, which is very special. If you've seen at the Columbus Airport when they come in off of the airplane from DC, the welcome home is wonderful. And that's where the veterans really, I think, are touched very much by that.
Yeah. Thanks again. And as always, you were watching Public Affairs, and I am your host, Kayleigh Aiken.